Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so we have the information on the Zach LaVine, De'Aaron Fox trade, three-team deal. You got De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin headed to the Spurs. You got the Bulls getting Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and their own 2025 pick from San Antonio. And you got the Kings taking on Zach LaVine, City Sissoko, three first-round picks, the 2025 from Charlotte, the 2027 from San Antonio, and the 2031 from the Timberwolves. And then they got three second-round picks also coming their way. 2025 Chicago Bulls second-rounder, 2028 Denver second-rounder, and then they get their own 28th pick back in the second round. What I think, I like the idea that the Bulls got their own pick back. That's the first thing that comes to mind for me. The Bulls got their own pick back now. I think it was a top 10 protected, so they had to be a certain kind of bad in order to keep their pick. This makes it so that they can do whatever they want to do and it still be credited to them. Getting Zach Collins, I don't know what that means for the Bulls other than maybe they feel even more confident than moving on from Vucevic, which is an expiring contract, I think, or something like that. It's a good idea. So this gives them some center position strength. I do think they make another move before this is over with. Trey Jones comes in, really nice young point guard. I like him a lot. He's going to be playing behind Kobe White, but he's going to push people for minutes over the next several years as he continues to develop. And Kevin Huerter, a nice player, shoots the ball pretty well. Back on the East Coast, he played his best ball in Atlanta, in my opinion. Kind of was in like a little bit of a log jam in Sacramento. So he's going to be going back to Chicago. Yeah, man, I mean, for me, I think the Kings did pretty well too, man, because I like that 2025 Charlotte pick. I don't think Charlotte is a horrible team right now, but like throughout the course of this season, they don't look all that great. I didn't know they didn't have their first round pick. Now, is it protected and all of that? I don't know. I genuinely do not know if that pick is protected or what the framework is on that particular pick, but if that pick is unprotected, and the way Charlotte's going right now, and the way the lottery's set up, I wouldn't be surprised if the Kings end up with a very, very good pick with that pick alone this upcoming season. Now, the other picks I'm not sure about. 2031 Minnesota, that's Anthony Edwards in his prime. It's not going to be very good in theory. San Antonio, of course, now they got De'Aaron Fox and Wemby. And, 2 years from now, whatever you think they'll have there, with Castle still being in place. So I don't think that pick's very good. But the Kings do get that 2025 Charlotte pick, so that, who knows? It depends on how those picks are protected. It tells the story there, but those first don't look that great, and then second round picks are second round picks. But yeah, Zach LaVine coming in for Sacramento, as I said in my previous video, initially reacting to this, I thought it was pretty good. When you're moving on from De'Aaron Fox, you want Zach LaVine's speed and athleticism and scoring ability. I do think the Sacramento Kings could afford to get some defensive help. If they can get involved in getting somebody defensive, I think it'll go a long way in helping their franchise overall because they are so deficient defensively. And they keep on doubling down on offense and stuff like that. So, they could afford some defensive help. But overall, they're an offensive team. They have an offensive identity. And this allows for them to keep that losing De'Aaron Fox. Timeline is in place. I don't know if I was listening to somebody talk about this, and they were essentially saying they didn't like the idea that Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan are being reunited because it didn't work in Chicago. Chicago didn't have Malik Monk or Sabonis or Keegan Murray. So I think Sabonis is a game changer for that duo. And I think the spacing that they could potentially get for Keegan Murray could make their dynamic a little different. I don't think it's as simple as them in a nutshell just not working. I don't think so. It didn't work in Chicago, but they also didn't have a centerpiece that could go for a triple-double on any night and rebound the ball like crazy. So, like I said in my previous video, it's like recreating the Chicago situation, but adding Sabonis to it. How much better is Chicago if they had Sabonis last year? That's further along the lines of what it is I envision Sacramento is willing to do there. Now, they could very well turn around and just move DeMar DeRozan. But if I'm Sacramento, I'm not letting the presence of DeMar DeRozan keep me from getting a reasonable return for De'Aaron Fox. And if this is a reasonable return in their eyes, I'm going to make that happen. And I'll worry about the fit later. So I don't hate this for either any of these teams. I've heard some people who do. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox going to the Spurs is great. Spurs didn't have to give up too much at all. They give up City. They give up a first in 27. They give up a first in 31. They give up a second. You know, they're sending out Trey Jones and Zach Collins. Those are nice pieces, but they're not keeping me from getting De'Aaron Fox. Jordan McLaughlin's a nice role player. I don't think he's of much consequence in this situation. I've seen him do some good things in Minnesota, but I don't think he's of much consequence. He's a throw-in to the main character here, De'Aaron Fox, going to the Spurs. So I like Sidy Cissoko a lot. He was a nice second-round pick from last year's draft, a big dude who can do a lot of combo things, man. He can play some defense. He can get some guys involved. He projects to be pretty solid of a power forward. So I like Sidy Cissoko. I'm familiar with what he can do. And so I think the Kings did well. Three firsts, 3 seconds. With their win now timeline, they may want to turn around and flip those first. You know? That 2025 Charlotte pick is another player they have to develop. I don't know if that makes sense for them. But I do think that's a good pick. So maybe they turn that around and try to get something else. So that's what I like for Sacramento as well. Zach LaVine's contract's not great, but for them, they absorb that. They don't care. They're a franchise that really do not care about that. So getting those 3 firsts and 3 seconds. For me, moving on from De'Aaron Fox, getting that type of talent, getting that type of equity isn't bad at all. They only gave up Kevin Huerter. I don't think they hurt. That don't hurt too much. If you're Sacramento, nah, it don't hurt. So yeah, this is cool, man. This is cool. I like it for all teams. I really like it for the Bulls because they get their own pick back. Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, Zach Collins, nice role players. Nothing serious. You move on from the Zach LaVine contract that's not desirable, that people said you'd have to give up picks to get rid of. And when it's all said and done, you get him played his value all the way up to a space where you can get back role players and your own pick, which is very difficult to do, to get your own pick back from a team when you've mortgaged it away. So they got what they needed out of that. I think they came out of there looking great, because you got plus value for a contract that's long been seen as a negative asset. So I think the Bulls, you feel great. You understand that you have to temper your expectations for your return, because Zach LaVine is seen as a bad contract. No matter how well he's playing, at the end of the day, you weren't going to get much more out of it than this. So to get a first and 3 role players, you probably would have loved to have gotten more. But for me, I think that's good. That's a good return, man. That's a good return. Because if you would have pulled the trigger on moving Zach LaVine last year, you'd have to give up picks and stuff. So this is helpful. And them getting a pick in this draft, their own pick in this draft, is especially positive for them, because it's a very good draft. They probably would like to turn the corner and kind of just lose a couple of games or whatever. Given the fact they moved on from Zach LaVine, probably about to move on from Vucevic, probably about to move on from Lonzo. We'll see if those trades get done. That'll really allow them to bottom out and just kind of tank. I don't think they have the greatest chance of being one of the worst teams in the East, or the NBA rather, but Atlanta won the lottery last year, and they were in the play-in tournament. So as long as you miss the playoffs, you're in the mix. That's the bottom line. And I do think the Bulls are about to make sure that they don't have enough talent to make the playoffs. So that's what I think the Bulls are about to do. They're about to really do a wholesale on some stuff, man, and make that pick worth it to them, really worth it. So yeah, I'm curious to see what the Kings do. Now they got all this flexibility. When you're gonna move on from De'Aaron Fox, you didn't want to repay him, or maybe he didn't want to resign with you. I think that's how that went. So he forced his way out of there, which usually kills the value of a player. You love that you got 3 firsts, 3 seconds, a player that's playing like an all-star in Zach LaVine, and a young player in Sidy Cissoko who could, is a nice prospect to work with. It's like 7 prospects, essentially, if you realize all of it. That's 7 players and Zach LaVine for De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter. That's pretty good, especially if you draft well, or if you move that stuff for something that you really like. I think they move some of this stuff. I don't think they have to be in a rush to do it. Maybe you move the 25 pick since it's so valuable right now for another win now piece. I don't know exactly what that would be. I'm not going to project a idea. I personally don't think anybody should be moving on from any first round picks from this draft. But since they're all in on winning now and they got so much draft equity back from outside teams, I don't know how much of their own stuff they still got, but they essentially look pretty pick rich here just alone. This is a hell of a return for a team if they did want to turn the corner. 3 first rounders, 3 second rounders. And that's a nice little package of stuff if you want to start tanking. But Sacramento clearly does not want to do that. So yeah, I think they did okay. I think if you got to move on from De'Aaron Fox, you ain't got a choice. You love getting all this back. And of course, Wemby gets De'Aaron Fox, so the Spurs can now take steps forward and turning themselves into a win now team. This makes you wonder if they're going to move some more stuff too to do that, because they got more picks to work with. They got more young prospects they can move on from to kind of turn the corner and really start winning. So I don't think any of these teams are done. I think all 3 of these teams could potentially make another move. I really do. I think all of these teams could potentially not be done right now. So we'll keep our eyes open on the Spurs, Kings, and the Bulls, man. But this looks pretty fair, man. This trade, based on my belief and what this stuff is worth, looks pretty fair to me. I don't think any of these teams should really be unhappy. I really don't. Now, if you're worried about fit and stuff like that, that's a whole nother story. But just in terms of value and return, I think these teams look good today for the stuff that they got back. And of course, when you assess value, that means now what you expect the stuff to do once it gets there could determine how much of that value you retain. But on trade day, you feel pretty good about the price tag on all this stuff, shaping around and making these teams feel a lot better about themselves than they did before they made the trade. So that's what I think it's about. And I feel pretty good about this trade. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. BDL44. I thank y'all for watching. Bye.